can't see a scenario where I change that. The only person that you could possibly even think about would be DeAndre Hopkins. But I see regression, like the 9.3% touchdown rate that Deshaun Watson had last season. I think that's going to affect DeAndre Hopkins. So they're both incredible picks. I have them both right next to each other. But for me, it's AB, then Hopkins. Odell is next. Odell is much more inconsistent. He's kind of like Julio in that he's going to have some great weeks and he's going to have some not so great weeks. We were concerned last season that bringing in all these weapons, he's obviously been really good, but he's been really good on a lot of volume, and the volume was going to be decreased. And we couldn't really tell because he got hurt last season. So coming off the injury, I don't think that that's an issue. I think that people just get hurt playing football, so it's not like he's injury prone. Don't even think about that. But his ceiling's there with those guys, but he's going to be much more inconsistent. And when I'm trying to take a wide receiver in the first round, I want a little more consistency. So I'll tell you right now, for targets, early round targets in the premium rankings, we do not have Odell as an early round target. He's someone you can draft, but he's not someone that I would personally recommend drafting just because of the value that he's providing you. Where he's going, I don't see those things lining up. I think his value is a little bit lower than where he's going. Next tier, just bumped down. It's not a big drop off. You'll see that I have really big tiers as we get later on, but these first tiers, I really wanted to break them apart because I do see a difference. We've got Julio, Michael Thomas, Keenan Allen. You guys saw the player breakdown I did between Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen. If you haven't seen that, check that out. It's going to give a much deeper breakdown than what I'm going to do here. I see those two as definitely below Julio. The upside that Julio has, we've seen in the past, it's immense. He legitimately has 1,900 yard and like 12 touchdown upside. I know that the red zone struggles are an issue, and that's why he's not in that top tier. But the deal you're getting on Julio is not something you could get in the past. You know, in PPR leagues, you could legitimately pair Odell and Julio, something that those guys were going like 4 or 5 just 2 years ago, and nothing's really changed from their end. Yes, there are better running backs in the league right now. There's a lot more workhorses than there were just a few years ago, which is why they're going later. But the idea that you can pair these two is incredible. Like, starting off a team with Odell and Julio is just fun to do. Now, I'm not doing it. I don't personally recommend that you do it, but the upside it brings is awesome. So I like having Julio in this like late first, early second range. He, again, is not someone that we've put as a target because of the inconsistency. It's concerning having guys like Odell and Julio in your team because you can have a great team, but every week you have to understand that Julio could get you 2 for 20. And if you're okay with that because you know you're going to get those 10 for 200 weeks, then draft him. But I'm not okay with that, so I don't draft Julio. Guys I do draft are Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen. They're coming at a cheaper price in that more like mid-second round range, and I just feel a lot better about them. Drew Brees had an outlier season from Drew Brees' standpoint. He had lows across the board, for the past like 10 years. All his numbers were lows. I think that reverses this season. Their defense is not going to be as hot as it was last season. Their run game is not going to be as hot because the defense isn't going to be as hot. I think Drew Brees returns to the old Drew Brees. Who does that affect the most? Michael Thomas and Cameron Meredith. That's why we have Cameron Meredith ranked much above consensus, and it's why I like drafting Michael Thomas. We have him as a target much more than some of the other guys going in this range because he's super safe and he's got a lot of upside. He is going to be used in the red zone. He is going to be consistent week over week. He's very much like Antonio. He's not going to kill you each week. Even his down weeks are going to get you by. They're going to be good enough to where he's not going to lose you weeks the way Odell and Julio will. So I like having him there. And then Keenan Allen, the Hunter Henry injury helped him. Obviously, it hurt the team a ton. But that basically just like secured his role a little bit. He's below Michael Thomas, and again, watch that video because there are a little bit more concerns. He's been more injured in the past. He has more people that are going to take some targets away from him. We know that Mike Williams comes back this season. We already know Tyrell Williams is a part of that offense. So it'll be interesting to see how much volume he gets, but I have a feeling it's not going to be as much as last season. And because of that, I have him just below Michael Thomas. But if you wanted to take Keenan Allen, I'm not going to fault you at all. He was used a lot more than people think in the red zone, and he does have a higher target market share than Michael Thomas does. So love all of these wide receivers, but the only ones that I'm really targeting on my team are basically Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen. Those are the only two that we even talked about so far that I'll probably even own. I probably won't own any of the other ones because I think they're a little bit too expensive for what they're providing. Next tier we have is a 4-player tier. AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton, Stephon Diggs, and Amari Cooper. I like this tier as well. Every single one of these guys we have as a target. And I think I'm going to stop doing that now because I'm giving away all of our targets. So no more talk about that. Maybe I'll give you guys a few late, but you should probably be able to tell the way I talk about people. But AJ Green, he's a guy that used to be going, top 7 in the draft, and they had a very down year. The Bengals did. They didn't run very many plays. The offense struggled a ton. They had to fire their offensive coordinator. I think that they're going to be a lot better this season, and if AJ Green's healthy for the whole year, he's going to pay off this price tag. So getting AJ Green in the late second round is honestly a steal. Like, you could legitimately start teams with like Ezekiel Elliott and AJ Green, which is just an awesome floor to have and a great way to start a team. So I love AJ Green. I think people are a little bit too off on him. We have him projected 28% target market share. He's going to be awesome. And I think people think he's like injury prone or something, but he's played 13 or more games in 6 of the last 7 seasons. The thing is, he sometimes just like gets hurt in the worst possible time. And I mean, he got hurt the end of last season. So people obviously have recency bias and think, oh, he's injury prone because the last thing they remember from him is him getting hurt. So I don't think, as I talk about all of these players, there's very few that injury should even come into your mind because we don't predict injuries. So don't factor that into the equation. It's football. Everyone could get hurt. The only players that you're going to really factor that in are a little bit for Keenan Allen, I guess a little bit for Sammy Watkins, a little bit for Chris Hogan, but that's basically it. I'm scrolling through the names now. No one else, no, I'm not even going to say that. Those are the only guys, and when I say a little bit, I mean if you're just not comfortable with it, you take the guy right next to them. But I won't be doing that because I don't predict injuries. So that's my little 2 cents on the injuries. Won't bring it up again. Next guy is T.Y. Hilton, and I've had him ranked basically right here the whole offseason. I know everyone else seems to keep moving him up their boards. He's going a little bit earlier and earlier and earlier in drafts because people are like, oh, Luck is going to be back. We've known that. We've known that the entire offseason. Luck is back. And if Luck is back, T.Y. is being undervalued. So T.Y. is an excellent pick. I did the breakdown T.Y. versus Diggs, and I said that if Luck is back, you pick T.Y. If we don't know, you pick T.Y. The only way that we weren't picking T.Y. was if it got announced that Luck was not going to be healthy for the season. Then you just don't even draft him. Unless he was going in the 7th round or something, because Brissett was going to be a little bit better this season. But he is going to be back, so draft T.Y. Hilton in your drafts. Doesn't have as much as a market share as other guys do, but it doesn't matter because he's playing for Andrew Luck. He's going to catch a ton of deep balls, so I think it's an awesome pick. Diggs I have more or higher than consensus, which I do every single season. I just think he's just one of my favorite players, and getting the upgrade from Keenum, who I think is a little bit overhyped. I don't think Keenum's all that good at all. It was just that Bradford couldn't stay healthy. That's the only reason he was starting for that team. Like, he had a good run and a good stretch of games, but it's almost like that Nick Foles effect. Like, Nick Foles isn't that good, but he was given a contract, and then he was in a great system that made him excel. Keenum had great weapons, but he's not a good quarterback. Kirk Cousins, we know, is a great quarterback. And Kirk Cousins has done a lot with very little talent around him. So now you surround him with elite talent, and I think that's going to propel Diggs into the wide receiver 1 category. So I think he is a great pick. We all remember what he did in the playoff game against the Saints, just crushing their dreams. But I think that he's going to hopefully get over his injury concerns, because I guess you could lump him into that category of guys where you could say, okay, tiebreaker, it's T.Y. because of injuries. I'm fine with that. I already have T.Y. ahead of him, but I think that Diggs is going to finally put it all together this season. Next is Amari Cooper, last guy in this tier, and he's a little bit more risky. He has, this is like the first person that we're talking about that we put into a pretty extreme risk category, and that's just for a number of things. Like, the Raiders aren't going to be good, which I don't think hurts him as much as some people would say. Like, everyone knows the Raiders are going to be bad this season. Everyone knows that. They're not going to be good at all. Their defense is trash. I don't think their coach is any good. But that doesn't really hurt the wide receivers because, okay, their defense is trash. The team's going to score a lot. The team's bad, so they're going to lose a lot. That actually helps. That helps wide receivers. So he might just be like king garbage time this season. Can he put it together in the red zone? Is he going to continue to be like Julio Jones where they just don't use him in the red zone, or he's just ineffective in the red zone? We've never seen him put it together, but that's because Crabtree's been ahead of him the whole time. We know Crabtree's gone now. All that's left now, or all that came, I guess, not even left, is Jordy Nelson and Martavis Bryant. And you guys know I've trashed Martavis Bryant for basically his entire career, but he's not a threat. Like, he's going to catch some deep balls, but he's not a threat to Amari Cooper. Jordy is being undervalued. I think we have him higher than consensus. I'd have to check. I don't really know. But neither of them are going to take that many targets from Cooper. So Cooper is really just a bet on volume play here and bet on the talent because we know he's super talented. We've just been questioning, can he put it together? So this is basically the tier of, or the two-player tier right here of Diggs and Cooper of, I think they're good, and I think they put it together. Now, could they disappoint? Absolutely. They've been the two riskiest picks so far, with Cooper being the riskiest of the two, but I think they put it together. So I'm definitely drafting them in my leagues. But let's move on. Let's move on to a bigger tier. I don't know how many people are in this tier. It's a lot. This is where we start getting into where I'm more off from consensus. The beginning of the draft is pretty set. I mean, you pretty much know who like the top 6-7 guys are. I'm off on Devonta Adams. I will not be drafting him in any leagues. Definitely not in PPR, but he has more of an appeal in standard, but I won't be drafting him. They face a lot of really difficult wide receiver one cornerback matchups this season, and I don't think he's all that good. So, yeah, he has Aaron Rodgers, but he's not the only wide receiver in that team. We know that Cobb is back. Hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he doesn't have these ankle injuries or anything. And hopefully Geronimo Allison, we've been hearing good things in camp. Hopefully he can put together a good season. And if you have Allison, and you have Cobb, and you have Jimmy Graham, and you have pass-catching backs, because remember, now they have Williams, Jones, and Ty Montgomery. But people are saying, oh, he's the only guy. I just listed off a lot of names. That's a lot more than most teams have. And if people are going to say, oh, Jimmy Graham, he was targeted a ton in the red zone, and we use him in the red zone, well, they can't both be amazing. I tend to think they're going to use Jimmy Graham more than they use Devonta Adams in the red zone. So if I project Jimmy Graham for that 10 to 12 touchdown range, that's the thing that people are ranking Adams so highly in, is saying, oh, he's going to get 12, 14 touchdowns. That's how he pays off, because we know the receptions aren't going to be insane. I just think he's being really overvalued, so I'm definitely not drafting him. Next is Alshon, and I'm going to hold on Alshon right now. I'm not going all in. I have him higher than a lot of people do because I believe that offense is going to be really good, and I believe that when healthy, he's going to crush this ADP. The issue is when healthy. He's shown an inability to stay healthy in his career, and he's coming off the surgery. I have not gotten any sort of indication that he's back, and until that happens, he won't be on any of my teams. So if you're drafting, and we have yet to hear word that he's off the pup, he's back, he's going to be good to go for week 1, he's practicing, everything's fully 100% ready to go, just don't draft him. This is the spot where he would be, if you do get that okay, this is where you're taking him. But right now, he's not going to be on any of my teams because I take a more risk-averse approach to these first 4 rounds because they're so important. And especially being a wide receiver, I just think there's no reason to take that risk. There's a risk in a lot of the people I'm going to talk about here, which is why I go running back early. Because the importance of hitting on running back is so much greater that why would I take a risk on Devonta Adams not getting as much volume that we think and having difficult matchups and not producing to that point, for Alshon being injured, for Mike Evans seeing regression because he's not getting a million targets and his quarterback's not there for the entirety. It's not worth taking the risk when you don't think the upside is like top 5. So Devonta Adams, no way he has top 5 upside. Alshon, I just don't think he has top 5 upside because they don't spread the ball around a ton. I really like Aguilar, and that's the guy I'm going to tell you to draft when he comes up. I just think having Ertz, having pass-catching backs, having Aguilar, they spread the ball around so much that it doesn't make up, that upside doesn't make up for the risk of drafting him with this injury. So it's a no for me. Tyreek Hill is a yes for me. Better in standard because I don't think his receptions are going to be that insane, but he's going to have monster weeks. He's going to have weeks where he has like 4 for 130 and 2 touchdowns because Patrick Mahomes is actually going to look his way deep. We know Alex Smith, even when Tyreek Hill was wide open, which he is a lot because he is an incredible wide receiver, Patrick Mahomes will throw that ball. Alex Smith didn't even look. There are a lot of games where you look at the tape and you see Tyreek Hill having like 4 steps on a guy deep, just easy touchdown, and Smith doesn't even look his way, just dink and dump. So Mahomes is going to chuck the football. Are the Chiefs going to be great? No, they're not going to be that good of a team. But that doesn't matter. Again, remember Amari Cooper. Teams don't have to be good to support wide receivers. They need to score points, obviously, but wins and losses don't really matter. You almost want, like if you're playing DFS and you're sitting there and your team is up 20 or down 20, which do you want in the second half? Well, if you have the wide receiver, you want your guy to be down 20 because now they're going to face softer coverage and now they're going to throw the ball more passive a game script. And I think that's what the Chiefs fall into. That's why I have Kareem Hunt a little bit lower than consensus and why I have Tyreek Hill, I think, a little bit above. I should probably check consensus, but going off what I remember, I have him pretty high because they're going to be losing some games. Mahomes throws deep. It's just perfect for Tyreek Hill. So I love him as a pick. No way I'm going to draft any Mike Evans on any of my teams. I think that's almost a waste of a pick. There's just no way that he pays off his ADP. There are just too many weapons now on that team. They've got Brait, they've got Howard, they've got Jackson, they've got Godwin. Where do you see a large target share for Mike Evans? And now you tell me that Winston's suspended to start the season and they have a very difficult schedule? No, it's just not worth it. Don't take the risk on Mike Evans. Look at his game logs this past season and decrease it a little bit. That's what I expect from Mike Evans. I think that Godwin is definitely the pick. I don't think that Godwin's better than Mike Evans, but I think that their skill set is not as far off as people make it seem. I think Godwin is a fantastic talent that's going to take a lot more targets than he did last season. And if Mike Evans isn't getting targets, you can't draft Mike Evans because he's not efficient. He just lives off of volume, and he's not going to have that this season. So don't draft any Mike Evans. You can draft Larry, just like every single season in his career. There's no reason not to draft him. He has shown us an ability to stay healthy throughout his career and to not decline. He showed no decline last season, and I'm not going to start predicting Larry Fitzgerald to decline. They're going to lose a lot of games, and they don't really have that great receiving core. Christian Kirk is good, but he's a rookie, and they have absolutely no one else behind him. You guys know I love Bryce Butler, but it's still Bryce Butler. So Larry Fitzgerald is going to be leaned on heavily in this offense. So in PPR scoring, absolutely love that pick. Allen Robinson's another pick I like. He is back. Every indication is that he is good to go off of the ACL. Obviously, a guy coming off the ACL has a little bit elevated risk, and especially wide receivers going to new teams have elevated risk. But I see that offense ascending, and they're going to use Allen Robinson. So for the price, I don't think he's going to crush the ADP, but I think that where he's going, it's completely fair. So he's a good guy to target. Not targeting Adam Thielen, basically because I'm targeting Diggs. I'm taking my stand and saying that this is unquestioned, Diggs is the better athlete, he's the better wide receiver. I'm taking a stand and saying that, yes, Kirk Cousins distributes the ball, but that he's going to pick Diggs. And it's going to be very interesting to see these next preseason games, especially week 3. That's typically when the starters play a little bit more. Where are targets going? And I think they're going to go to Diggs. If they're all like hyper-focusing on Thielen, I guess we can change this. But I don't like the value on Thielen. I think that he's a little bit too expensive right now for what he's going to provide you. So it's a no for me. And then Josh Gordon, basically, like if you're we watch this video and you're drafting tonight, you're probably not taking Josh Gordon here because there's too much risk. And remember how much I said the first 4 rounds matter? Well, he's going in, I think, in that like early 4th round range. You just can't do it. You can't take that risk. Could he finish as the number 1 wide receiver in the league? Absolutely. He definitely could. But until he reports, I'm keeping him here. When he reports, so we get news that Hard Knocks is finally over and he goes back, because that's a large part of why I think he's not there, is because there's just too much attention. There's just too much for him. He cannot have this. I don't know why they did Hard Knocks. Not a great move. But if he comes back, then I move him into that like T.Y. Diggs Cooper range. In that late 2nd round, early 3rd round, that's what he's worth. The targets are not going to be there, but he's going to have enough to where he can be the number 1 wide receiver. He does not need Mike Evans' targets. If Mike Evans and Josh Gordon got the same amount of targets and like the same targets, Josh Gordon crushes Mike Evans in scoring. But right now, it's too much risk. So once he reports, we're taking him in that late 2nd, early 3rd round range, and we're feeling great about that because it's not the drugs. I don't have any concern about that. I have concern that he's not mentally stable enough to report. That's what I'm concerned about. So when he reports, I'm good. Until he does that, I'm not risking a 4th round pick on him, even though I love the talent and I'm really rooting for him. And next guy, starting off this next tier that I'm also not drafting at all, is Doug Baldwin. I don't draft injured players, and Doug Baldwin's injured. And we don't know the severity, and that scares me with the knee injury. That really does. He was a guy that was being a teensy bit undervalued. Then he got the ADP climbed, and then he wasn't being undervalued anymore, and now he's being overvalued, which we see a lot. We see a lot year to year where a player's a great value, everyone starts talking about them, and then they go a little bit too much. He went a little bit too much, and then he got hurt. So, no. Unless we hear he's 100% healthy, we're not drafting him, and we're not going to hear that. We might hear them say, oh, he's going to be good to go for week 1, but unless I hear and I'm convinced that he's good to go, I won't be drafting him, and I don't think we're going to hear that. So, no for me. A no for me from Cooks. It's not that you can't draft him, it's that I won't be drafting him. He's another guy that's going to have some huge weeks and going to have some really low weeks, and I think that team's going to be really good and that defense is going to be really good. So they're going to have probably like 6 or 7 games where a lot of the second half, they're not going to need to pass that much. They're going to be able to run the clock out. And that's just not great for a receiver going in the 4th round who relies on huge plays. Because when teams are up, they're not taking these risky deep balls. I don't think that the targets, I guess, are going to be there for Cooks. And for how much I like Cooper Kupp and how much I think he's going to evolve into this offense, I can't justify also saying that Cooks is going to be great, because I don't think Goff is just like Aaron Rodgers or anything, and he would need to be to support all of these pieces. So you kind of see that as a theme when I say don't draft Cooks, draft Cooper Kupp. Don't draft Mike Evans, draft Chris Godwin. Don't draft Alshon, draft Aguilar. We're not saying that those guys are going to outproduce them in numbers. It's the value. I'd rather just take running backs at this spot than all of these guys, basically, because running backs are so much more important. So I'm taking value in the back end of this draft, and guys that are coming up soon are some of my favorite picks in the draft. I'm not taking a lot of the guys we just talked about. I'm not taking Thielen, Gordon, Doug Baldwin, Cooks, even Juju. I'm not taking Juju, even though I think he's going to have a decent season, and I think he's a great wide receiver. It's too expensive. It's just too expensive a price for the number 2 receiver on a team. Next, we get to 2 wide receivers that I really like. It's Corey Davis and it's Chris Hogan. These two are going to be team guys that are going to be on the majority of my teams, especially how I like to draft. Take like 4 running backs to start, and then if you can get these 2 guys, that's going to set you up for a lot of successful weeks. I think that they're finally going away from that horrible run-heavy scheme for the offense, and that's going to greatly help the Titans. I absolutely hated their offense these past 2 seasons, and I think they finally realized how bad it was. They're finally going to go pass heavy, which is huge for Corey Davis. We know that Rashard Matthews has been a thing these past few seasons. I don't think it's going to be any more. Last season, Corey Davis struggled to stay healthy. Well, he's good to go now. He struggled behind Rashard Matthews. Well, guess what? Rashard Matthews is the one that's hurt right now. We don't know when he's coming back, but I don't draft injured players because they start really slow. I do not fear Matthews this season. I think Corey Davis is going to be the guy. And if you're getting the guy as late as you are in this 5th round, awesome pick. So I love Corey Davis as a pick, and I love Chris Hogan. I have been off of Chris Hogan for part of this offseason because he has had a very difficult time staying healthy. He has had 10 separate injuries since 2014. He doesn't suffer major injuries, but he's hurt all the time. I've watched every game for the Patriots for the past 10 years. Every time this dude gets tackled, I'm like, please get up. Because he's just gets tackled and then he's slow getting up and then he's on the sideline for a little bit and so many injuries. But I've decided this season I'm throwing injuries out when there's nothing we can predict. He's not a guy that has a systemic injury history. He doesn't have a knee issue like some guys do. He just gets hurt sometimes. And I'm not going to predict him getting hurt. And if he doesn't get hurt, you could guarantee me Chris Hogan for 16 games, I'm taking him in the early 3rd round probably. If you guaranteed me 16 games, early 3rd round. That's the value he's going to provide you with touchdowns and with yardage. So I think it's a great pick. Right now he's starting to climb, but as of right now he's not getting too expensive. Sammy Watkins is next, and he enters the red tier for risk. 8 different injuries since entering the league in 2014. There's a few things other than the injuries that are concerning for Watkins. One is we always point out wide receivers changing teams is a concern. Always, whenever a wide receiver changes teams in the offseason, it's just a concern that they're not going to fit or they're going to have a rough time getting started, and then you would prefer to trade for that player, not to draft them. But everything I've seen from the Chiefs camp is that Watkins is doing awesome and that he has a good rapport with Mahomes. And if that's the case, and the fact that he's really good deep like Tyreek, it's that same thing. Mahomes will chuck it deep, and they're going to be a bad team, so they're going to be down a lot. So I really like Watkins. I think that getting him this late is another guy that's a really good value. Juju, I really like the talent, but I'm not drafting him because he's just a little bit too expensive. Remember, he's the backup. I'm not the backup, but he's the number 2, and they already have Bell and AB. He flashed a few times, but we know he flashed once with no AB against the Browns. We know that he flashed on Monday Night Football, but he had a 97-yard touchdown reception on a blown coverage. There are great qualities of Juju in that he is a great receiver. That's not what I'm debating at all. He's a great receiver. It's volume-based. I think that guys going around him are going to see more volume and are more impactful to their team. And I'm not drafting a guy in the 5th round that needs an injury to pay off his ADP. I'm not going to do that. So, no for me. I've been off on Demaryius, but I think he's another guy that's just fair. His price is just fair. He's not someone that I target. He's not someone that I jump up and down when he's on my team, but the price is good on him because he's still going to be involved. I'm not concerned about the wide receivers they drafted. It's still Demaryius and Emmanuel this season. Both of them, I think, are extremely fair prices. If I had to choose one, which is what you do, you don't draft both of them, it's Emmanuel. He's going 2 rounds after him, and I think that's a better value. So that's the reason he's not on my teams. But if you think that Demaryius is going to fit better with Keenum, then go for him instead. I just am of the camp that thinks that Emmanuel's skill set fits better for Keenum. That's just my opinion, which is why I'm drafting Emmanuel instead. Golden Tate, not a guy I'm really on this year. I'm a Kenny Galladay guy. I think that he's going to emerge in this offense. That hurts Golden Tate more than it hurts, or that hurts Jones more than it hurts Golden Tate, but it hurts them all in the sense that they're going to see less targets. And I think that Kerryon Johnson is going to be involved in the passing game, and they're going to run the ball more with him. So it's just, I don't know, he's just like a fine guy to target, but one that I think is a little bit overvalued, that you can get very similar production in a Cooper Kupp a little bit later. That why would you not just draft Kupp? So no for me. Dez is next, but Dez is a wild card. Like, if he's not on a team when you're drafting, it's basically what's your team right now? Do you need massive upside? Take Dez. If you need safety, don't take Dez. That's really all he is. I think he's a good pick because I think he's still very talented. I'm praying he doesn't go to the Browns because I really want Josh Gordon to succeed because he's my keeper in my keeper league. I mean, I could take other players as well. I think I can take Kenyon Drake and Jamal Williams in the last round too, and I want to say is another wide receiver. But regardless, I pull for Gordon because I want to see him succeed, which is why I don't want Dez going there. I prefer Dez to go to like Green Bay would be awesome. Seattle would be really good because of the potential for Doug Baldwin to maybe miss some time. But regardless, if he goes to a team that's going to use him, you got to draft Dez. Like, you just kind of have to draft him. He's going really cheap. But right now, it's more of a, I've drafted a very safe team. Let's get some massive upside. That's all Dez is. Next tier, I think this is tier 6. Landry. I do not draft Landry because he's a target guy. He's going to be used less in the red zone, and he's going to get less targets. So, no. I have no part of Landry. He won't be on any of my teams. Marvin Jones is another guy. No, because I like Kenny Galladay. I think Kenny Galladay is really good, and not that he's going to overtake him, but that he's going to see an increased workload, which means that Jones is being overvalued. I do like Funchess. I do like Kupp, Fuller, Crowder, all these next 4. I like all of them. I think that Funchess is going to see a decrease in volume because I think obviously bringing back Olsen, having DJ Moore there, who wasn't there last season, I think that those hurt him, but he's still going to be used in the red zone. He's still going to be used, and he's just being undervalued right now. He's undervalued. He's a good pick where he's going, good pick where I have him ranked. Cooper Kupp is one of my favorite picks in the draft. I believe he was in that video, top 5 best picks, because he's a great pick. He's going to be used a lot in that offense, a lot in the red zone. That offense is going to score points, and there's no way you can leave Woods and Cook open on the outside. So I think Kupp is going to crush in the slot this season. I see him having a big year, and I like it. I really like the value. I really like opening up a few running backs, and then Corey Davis, Chris Hogan, Cooper Kupp. If you can get that, I think that it's well worth starting off maybe 4 running backs. And Crowder is a guy that I liked last season. It was unfortunate with injuries for him, but everything I've heard, he's good to go right now. He's a guy that I think will be a favorite of Alex Smith. I think that Doxson is an upside play, but I'm off of Doxson. I don't think that he's shown us an ability to be that good, I guess is how I want to put it. Like, he's got the talent, he's got the raw talent, but until I see him put it together, I'm going to say Crowder's a better wide receiver, and I'd rather draft the better wide receiver. So I like Crowder. Next is Will Fuller. I already talked about the regression that's going to happen for Watson. That's like a fact. It's going to happen. But even if, he does regress, Fuller's still the clear-cut number 2 in that offense and a guy that's going to win you some weeks. And when you start getting into this range, these aren't the guys that you should be starting week in and week out or relying on to start week in and week out unless you went real heavy on running back. So having an upside guy, I like. So I think Will Fuller is being properly valued and is a guy that if you drafted a little bit safer, a little bit more stable pieces, good to go on him. Crabtree fits that mold of He changed teams, so there's risk, but it's a team that throws a ton, and we know he's going to be a guy in that offense, so the risk is mitigated. I think he, like everyone that I just talked about in these past four, is being properly valued and is a great pick. Woods, I'm like fine on him. Remember, like for all of these teams, you have to think of a narrative. My narrative is Cooper Kupp and Gurley are going to be the two guys in this offense, which means that since I don't think Goff is winning MVP, I'm down on both Cooks and Woods. Next tier, Emmanuel Sanders. I already talked about him. I think that his skill set in being shifty, being able to create separation more than Demaryius does, is going to fit Keenum. I think that if you want to look at last season, Sanders is pretty comparable to Thielen. So I think that Keenum's going to feel more at home passing to Sanders. And I honestly think that at this point in their careers, Sanders is just the better wide receiver. So I like him, or at least the value on him more than Demaryius. Goodwin's next. I've heard really good things about Goodwin coming out of camp. He's got the speed, we all know that, but I guess he's developing really nicely as a lead wide receiver. So that's something to watch. If he comes out in these next couple of preseason games and we continue hearing from camp that he's being good, that he's developing, and we see that he looks the part of a number one wide receiver, we're moving him up in the rankings. Right now, I think this is good. This is a spot where this is similar to where he's going, so I'm fine targeting him if you want a piece of that offense. Know, though, that offense is never going to hyper-focus on one guy. So Goodwin isn't a guy that's just going to break out and be dominant, but he had a pretty good season last year if you go back and look, and he's a pretty good wide receiver. So if he's developing from that, that's something I want. Really like the value on Aguilar. Again, we don't know 100% that Alshon's going to be back. I think he will be, but regardless, Aguilar was good last year, and we thought he was going to be good coming out of the draft, and he disappointed. I think that this offense is going to be really good for the next few years, and Aguilar is going to be a piece of that. So love the value there. Edelman is suspended to start the season, but this is a range where you're not starting anyone right away, so he comes back right when you would need him to come back. And when you look at that receiving core, it's Edelman and it's Hogan. Hogan's going to be the guy to start the year, and Edelman's going to come back, and he's going to fit right back into that slot. There's absolutely no one on that roster that will challenge him. Eric Decker is not good. Do not draft Eric Decker. Do not draft Kenny Britt. They are not good. They will not be used in this offense. They're going to struggle a little bit. They're still going to have Gronk, still going to have Burkhead in a ground game, running backs to pass to and Hogan, but they're going to be a lot better when Edelman comes back, and he's going to take that slot role immediately. So I think you're getting a decent value on him there. DJ Moore, I think, is a good value as well. We need to temper expectations a little bit in his first year because, one, it's his first year. Two, they're not a high-volume offense. And three, there's a lot of other weapons. So we can't expect him to have a ton of targets. Can't expect him to have a ton of touchdowns. So love the talent. He's a very talented wide receiver, a guy you probably want in Dynasty. But for this year, I think the value on him is fair. But he's still a good pick. I think the price is appropriate. Jordy, we talked about, that offense is going to be trash, but that helps him because they're going to need to throw the ball a ton in the second half of games. We hear from camp that, he's back to the younger Jordy. I want to see it first for myself because that's kind of hard to believe. He looked pretty terrible last season. Add another year with a team change. I don't know. So I haven't drafted him yet in a mock draft, but if you're a believer in him that he's back and you're like me and you don't think there's outside of Cooper very much talent on that roster, draft him because they got to throw to someone. Next three guys, two of them I like. Lockett, you've heard us praise Lockett the entire offseason, saying he's one of the most undervalued players in the draft. He's been climbing recently, especially with this Doug Baldwin news. But even before that, I was saying draft Tyler Lockett. He's a good wide receiver on a team that's going to be down a lot with a mobile quarterback that's great at creating time for people to get open downfield. Who does that tie into perfectly with? Tyler Lockett. Wilson is exceptional at scrambling and creating time for his receivers to get open. Lockett's going to have a few games where he crushes. He's a guy you love in best ball. He's a guy you love as a cheap option with massive upside in DFS. But he's a guy that's going to be good for your team because he still does have weekly floors. Because he's the number 2. He's the number 2 receiver on that offense. So I love the value on Lockett. I think Cobb is fair. I like the value on Cobb much more than Devonta Adams. I don't think that he's as safe as people think. People always bring up the stats. Like, oh, he's an Aaron Rodgers number 2. That's always good. Okay, but first of all, we're not even that sure he's going to be the number 2 because I think Geronimo Allison is going to be decent. And also, he's been injured recently. He hasn't been that good. And I don't know. Like, he's fine, but he's never a guy that I'm going to be comfortable starting. And I'd prefer someone like John Brown coming up. At least there's a chance I'm going to feel comfortable starting him. Like, I just feel like there's no way I'm ever going to feel comfortable starting Cobb. Whereas John Brown, he legitimately could be the most targeted player on a team that could pass the most times in the league. So that upside's hard to deny. We have him as a very risky pick, obviously, because he's not only changing teams, but he's been injured a ton in the past. He's got the sickle cell trait. That's feeding into some of these injuries. But he's shown us upside. And we know that whoever the quarterback is probably going to help him. We know that Flacco is not afraid to chuck it deep. But we also know even if, let's say that Lamar Jackson comes in halfway through the season, that's going to be fine too, because he's a guy that's going to keep defenses honest. People aren't going to follow him all the way downfield every time if they're terrified that Lamar Jackson's going to run every play. And he's going to have that Wilson effect where he's scrambling, creating time for Brown to get downfield. So I think he's a good pick, just one that don't draft him if you've drafted like Josh Gordon, Sammy Watkins, Dez Bryant. Don't be drafting John Brown. You need to have a floor on your receivers before you draft him. Next tier. And I think for the rest, I'm going to just kind of go over more briefly because these guys don't all deserve, an in-depth analysis. And I think I have ranked through like 70 right now. So I'll say a brief thing on each one because I don't want to keep you guys too long. If you have questions, leave them in the chat, leave them in the comment section. But I'm going to give like a yes, no, and a reason why, I guess, for all of these guys. So Garcon, no, because I think Goodwin is the better receiver at this point in their careers. I think that they're going to spread the ball a lot in that offense, and I don't see myself ever starting Garcon. Kenny Stills, yes, because I don't believe in Devonta Parker. I will never draft Devonta Parker for the rest of his career, and I think that they're going to stink, so they're going to throw the ball to someone. I think that someone is Kenny Stills. So like him, kind of just said Devonta Parker, nope, I won't draft him for the rest of his career. I would X him out, but that would just be rude, so I won't be doing that. Just don't draft him. Doxson, no, I think Crowder is better, and I just don't believe in his talent. I think that skill set wise, yeah, he's talented, but NFL wide receiver wise, nope. I don't think he's shown us any ability to put together that talent onto the field. Mike Williams, sure. I'd have to see who else is available at that spot. More than likely, no. I think he's going to be used in the red zone, but I don't think he's going to be on the field all the time, and he's never shown us anything. I have him ranked above consensus because I think he is being undervalued, but in terms of actually drafting him, I would say unlikely. Kelvin Benjamin, no. I've never drafted Benjamin. I think he's overvalued every single season, and moving to Buffalo does not help him because they have absolutely no one to throw him the football, and they don't throw a ton. That team is trash, and no way I draft him. Golladay, yes. Michael Gallup, yes. I think Golladay is a talented wide receiver who in the future will surpass Jones in the depth chart. This season, it won't happen, but I think he's going to have enough volume and has upside if Jones were to get hurt to where he's worth the spot. Gallup was the yes because Hearns, whatever it is is hurt right now, and Gallup looks awesome. We knew that going into the draft. He was a guy I wanted the Patriots to draft. I was just heartbroken that we spent our first pick on Sonny Michel. Obviously, we weren't taking Gallup there, but I don't know. I got a bad feeling from the draft when we spent our pick on a running back who has knee issues and fumbling issues and wasn't even one of the best running backs in the class. So I don't know. I was sad about that, and then very sad when Gallup got drafted because I wanted him on the Patriots because he's great. I think he's a great wide receiver. He's more of a future pick, more of a dynasty pick because I just don't see the volume this season. They're going to give Zeke like 1 million carries. So where does Gallup fit in there? I think he's going to be useful, but I don't think the ceiling is massive. Anderson, yeah, as long as I don't even know if that's been resolved with the league or not. He's had some like legal issues recently, but if he's good to go, they got to throw to someone. And I think Quincy is hurt again right now. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure he's hurt. And they have to throw to someone. Like, their ground game is going to be fine with Crowell, but they're going to lose a ton of games. So Anderson's going to have value. So I think he probably, if he's healthy for the full season, there's just no way he doesn't pay off his ADP. Godwin, absolutely. I think he's one of the best picks in the draft. He, talent-wise, is not that far off from Mike Evans. Will it happen this season where he takes over? No, it just won't. But in the future, could he take more targets than Mike Evans? Yeah, I think he could. I think he's really good, and he's being undervalued right now. And they're not going to win many games either, so they're going to have to throw. Meredith, absolutely. He's the number 2 receiver on a Drew Brees offense, and he's going basically undrafted. So draft him. From what I hear, he's good to go from the injury. I know he's had some days where he's sitting out practice and everything, but all indications are that comes week 1, he's going to be good to go, and he's a fantastic wide receiver. So draft him. Mike Williams, sure. I think that the value on him is enough, and the upside with injuries is enough to draft him. I don't find myself drafting him on a ton of teams, but I have drafted him a few times. So, yeah, I'll draft him, but he's not someone that I'm like, this is one of the best picks in the draft. One of those is actually coming up, a really good pick. But Geronimo is next. You guys heard me say I'm not even fully convinced that Cobb is the second best receiver in that team anymore. I think Geronimo could challenge him this season. Is he going to get a ton of touchdowns with Devonta Adams and that run game and Jimmy Graham there and Rodgers running in a few? Probably not. But could he get 7? Sure. And if he gets 7 touchdowns, he crushes the ADP. So I like him as a pick. Taywan Taylor is the guy that I was saying. I almost put him in to that video, the top 5 best picks in the draft. But I kind of wanted to fill that up with like some early, some mid, some late guys. So I didn't want to go multiple late picks, but he is an awesome pick. I already said Rashard Matthews has been hurt. Rashard Matthews hasn't shown us that he's he's shown us that he's good and a competent receiver, but he's not like the answer for the future. He's not like a dominant receiver. If they want to take the next step as an offense, they play Taywan Taylor. And I think they do that because I think they had a hard look this offseason and said, we need to change. We need to give the ball to Mariota, and we need to play the best receivers. And I think that's Taywan Taylor and Corey Davis. So I'm huge on both of them, huge on that offense. The pieces I like in that offense, which are those two and Mariota. So draft him. He's going undrafted right now, and that's just horrible. Take the guys I'm talking about late and take a ton of running backs early. I've said it like 1 million times, and yet a lot of you won't do it. Corey Davis, Chris Hogan, Cooper Kupp. You could throw Emmanuel Sanders into that, but Tyler Lockett, John Brown, Gallup, Meredith, Godwin, Allison, Taywan Taylor. Fill your rosters with those guys and then just crush running backs early because there are so many good running backs this season and they're so valuable. Draft them. That needs to be your strategy. Everyone else basically on this list is just a flyer. I'm not drafting Martavis Bryant, but I get it if you want to. If you're a Martavis Bryant guy, I'm not. I don't think he's all that good. Christian Kirk is just a volume bet, but he's never a guy you're going to really start. No Rashard Matthews because I already love the other two guys. I'm not going to draft him. Anthony Miller is a great wide receiver, but I think he's more of a future wide receiver. I think he's a dynasty pick, a keeper league pick, or a guy that maybe you draft and you bet on him putting it together this season, but I think that's more of a future thing. Calvin Ridley is a future thing. You don't need to go there. Marquise Lee is fine because I think that whole offense is kind of being undervalued. Bortles is not a good real-life quarterback. Everyone knows that, but he's a great fantasy quarterback. And you could honestly even draft Blake Bortles. But this is the first Jacksonville wide receiver I've mentioned. And I have all of them right here. You could draft Lee, and you can draft Moncrief, and you could draft Dede. I know some of you guys are Dede guys. I love Dede as well. I think that he is awesome. But all of them, the volume isn't going to be that exceptional to where you should have them ranked that highly. But if I'm ranking them in terms of who I would put on my team first, it's Lee, then Moncrief, then Dede. Lee is just the best wide receiver of the bunch. I know I love Dede, but Lee is the better wide receiver. Moncrief is the potential touchdown guy. If you want to bet on a high variance season, or you want to bet on them actually honing in on one guy, it's probably Moncrief. I just don't think you need to be in this range. I don't think you need to draft any of the remaining wide receivers. Unless you're in a really deep league, in which case take shots on these guys, take shots on Corey Coleman, because we know he's an exceptionally talented wide receiver. It's just the volume won't be there. So if you're in a 16-team league, sure. If you're in a 12-team league, no. Beasley's on this list because Earns is hurt, and depending on the extent of that injury, if Beasley's out there, every play, he's going to catch balls, so he's going to be useful. Deshaun's super low because I like Godwin, and I like the tight ends on that team. And where's the volume? Where's the potential for volume? I don't think it's there. And I guess the last guy is Sterling Shepard. I put him this low because